people can like message me and like pay to text me and I can respond on audio. And this guy,
Pay to text me and I can respond on audio. That's for your show, mate.
Yeah.
So it's a super chat he sent her and she's read out.
Basically, that's what that Minek thing is that she responds to a paid comment.
Okay.
I mean, it's polite, but it's basically a disclaimer of a contractual agreement. Yeah.
You pay, I
Yeah.
comment.
messages me, and this is what he says. His name is Will Duffy. He said, I heard you recently talking about the flat earth versus the globe debate. I'm a pastor from Colorado, and I've created something called the Final Experiment. It's a trip to Antarctica this December to settle the debate once and for all. It would be really cool if you and or George joined us in Antarctica. But if not, I would be more than happy to come on your show to talk about it. If you'd like more information, our website is thefinalexperiment.com. Thanks, Will. So why was he contacting me? Because the news somehow tried to make it seem like I was a flat earther simply because I said people should debate the things that they actually want to debate. And I said, notoriously, I have left the cult of science. I mean, I've been so wrong about things scientifically that I thought were true and I trusted the experts on, namely vaccines, obviously, birth control. And
There you go, you see. This is how little the girl knows in terms of actually understanding what she's talking about. She's still categorizing medicine as science. Vaccines, the science. It's the same rhetoric that fed people to follow the science and get an injection. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, that is true. And while we could critique her scientific acumen, the bottom line here is it's pay to respond, and Will Duffy's getting his response that he's paid for. But in his suggestion, it's if you want further information, go to my website. Does she want further information? Her hands haven't touched the keyboard. She's just fulfilling her super chat obligation by offering up a recognition of her own words and why he would be asking her this question. Is she actually typing in his website and going because she has an interest to fulfill, or is she just fulfilling her contractual obligation after getting a glorified super chat?
Well,
Right, so
he sent that on the 9th of July, Nathan. So I don't know if the two of them have been in contact in the background since then. So we don't know, we don't know what I'm saying. So we don't know if there's more to it than what we're hearing. But at first, that's all it was.
check.
Go on. All right.
You said you knew the website. Get the website and see if there's levels of response, whether it's a private response,
Okay.
on-air response, and see if there's levels of response that you can get. Like, I'll just respond to you verbally in an MP3 thing. Send your question.
It's an app, Adam. It's a Minect. It's the name of it. It's an app.
Yeah, have a look at it, but just see if there's a pay grade of response you can get. I'll respond on Candace show for $500, or do you see what I mean? Just have a look. If we have a little look at that, we can see what he's at. Might be able to find out what he's at to pay to get to this. Yeah, without then having to pretend or demonstrate that she. I mean, the first thing she does is wash her hands of flat Earth. There, by the way. Yeah, first thing she did. I'm not a flat earther.
Yeah.
So
she's been doing that.
Yeah, well, in which case then, what we've got is Will Duffy, first and foremost, presenting as if she's now a flat earther. And as a flat earther, she's interested in this trip to Antarctica. And this is why this will be interesting. What did she say? Not what did he clip? Because the substantive bit is her reading his text message out. That's the most bit he showed. And that's worthy of him spending $500 to get Candace Owens to read that out about his trip to Antarctica. Well worth $500 when it's 30 grand for one ticket. Part of the grid. Yeah.
But what I would say is it's possible that she doesn't want the Earth to be flat. It's possible that she can't take that on board.
No. Reading too much into it, Brian. She's a
No,
journalist. She's covering.
I was trying to go somewhere with that. Go on.
Yeah, but you're reading too much into it. You're saying it might be the case that she doesn't want the Earth to be flat. Yeah, where you're
you
going with
didn't let
that?
me finish what I was saying. I had a reason for saying that. Right. She's also a promoter of the Bible. So she might not want the globe to not be true, but she can't deny that the Bible does not support that paradigm. So she's in a bit of a quandary. That's what I'm trying to say. She might be mentally in a bit of a quandary.
Or she's fickle because she's a journalist.
And she's been offered 500 quid to answer this question online.
Right.
And that's what she did. Let's find out what she says. Let's find out. Because we're guessing, aren't we? See what actually her response is. Is she enthused past the idea of an expedition? Or is it going to prove something to her that she's already made a disclaimer she's not, which is a flat earther? Yeah.
And I've just been so shocked at the level of deception that the science community has been able to impart on mankind that I just no longer go out and say confidently things that I don't observe with my own two eyes or topics that I am not confident on. Of course, that was magically spun to say, Candace believes in the flat earth theory. No, I believe in the scientific method. You guys have at it and you debate it. It's not my interest. Well, so this is actually really fascinating because this is the return to the
Right, she's paused there now. You got a problem with what she just said? I know she just.
I'd have to hear it again. It sounded a bit.
But actually, if we assume she did know what it was, what she said was bob on, weren't it? Yeah.
I'd have to listen again. Sorry, I was looking
Well,
at this thing about a minute.
I'll give it a couple of. I'll give it 2 J's. That's 10 seconds. I'll give it 20 seconds. Okay.
on mankind that I just no longer go out and say confidently things that I don't observe with my own two eyes or topics that I am not confident on. Of course, that was magically spun to say, Candace believes in the flat earth theory. No, I believe in the scientific method. You guys have at it and you debate it. It's not my interest. Well, so this is actually
Right. You guys have at it and debated. It's not my interest. In other words, she doesn't seem to. She's acting like she doesn't care either way. But I know that can't be the case.
No. So what I heard was the last time I mentioned something to do with this topic, everybody suddenly said, I'm a flat earther. No. My experience is to come with the use of medical procedures such as the COVID vaccine to realize that the use of science has been misappropriated. Okay. Now, as I move forward, I'm not going to make claims about shit that I don't know and can't validate myself. And I'm going to use the scientific method. Now, I assume that she knew what the scientific method was, yeah, which I think she demonstrates she doesn't. If outside of that, in terms of just her word, what can I disagree with there? She's telling me she's not a flat earther. She wants nothing to do with it, but she's been mugged off in the past by the use of the word science, right, which we all agree with. And moving forwards, she's going to stick to the scientific method, right? And if she can't validate it with her own eyes or use the scientific method, that is just what we're preaching, guys.
Yeah, it is similar. It is similar. But she has to know what scientific method is because I don't think she does.
Prefaced it with that, didn't I? Which we know she's going to get wrong. That's not the point. The point I'm saying there is that's a great rebuttal. And more importantly, she's also saying, I'm not interested in flat earth.
So she's not going to his website. She's not going to Antarctica. The spin that Will Duffy put on is just another part of his grift. He's given a few quid to a big name that we're talking about and then pretended that she's interested in his stupid fraud claim to be experiment, which it isn't. So it's a fairly standard move by Will Duffy then. Just more fraud.
Supposedly she's not going or her husband is not going, but her director or producer is going.
Well, let's see. She's not said this is brilliant, right? She said it's amazing, which but she's not said it's brilliant. It will settle this question once and for all. I've got my full support, and I'm going to send my director because I can't go. But at least we'll know whether the Earth's flat or not. I've not heard that yet. So let's hear a bit more of it.
actually really fascinating because this is the return to the scientific method. But let me explain to you why
No.
this in Antarctica holds the key.
You see,
So Antarctica,
that's where
allegedly,
that's where she does get indicted, though, isn't it? She doesn't
is
know
brilliant.
she
This
doesn't
is-
know what the scientific method is. So if it's a return to the scientific method, you better be defining what that is. What cause and effect reasoning based on a phenomena that you've observed? Because there's not even a phenomena being observed yet. There might be one, but that's not an experiment. But she thinks it's a return to the scientific method. Why? Because Will Duffy's put the word experiment in the title of his trip. Now, she doesn't know that he's also, because all she's doing is responding to a super chat, basically, called an experiment. We've called it out as not being. He's then rephrased it as being an expedition. She doesn't know any of this or care about any of this, more importantly, from what I'm getting here.
That's-
But it's likely her producer does. He cares or she cares
this
or
is
whoever.
egregious
Yeah.
bit, isn't it? Yeah, that she says that irrespective of her not caring, she's pleased to see that somebody's going and returning finally back to the scientific method, not realizing that what she's actually ascribing is a zetetic method. Yeah, just use
Yeah.
logic and conclusion with empirical observation to force yourself to reach a conclusion, not to prove a cause and effect, which is the scientific method. This is her ignorance here. Yeah? There's nothing wrong with going and doing something zetetically to understand what it proves, which is very little. It affirms a consequence. Yeah.
Well, I don't believe when she says it doesn't mean kind of when she pawns it off. I know that that's not true. When someone tries to pawn that off, and especially with her being a staunch Catholic and a reader of the Bible, I don't believe for a moment that this topic is whatever to her. I don't believe that at all. What does it matter? It matters. Every part of it matters to everything that you talk about, Candace. So don't be
Okay,
telling
well,
me that it doesn't matter to you.
You can believe that all you like. I'll just take it as read when she says words.
Yeah, but words are also used to lie.
I'm not interested. I'm not a flat earther. You should listen to those words. They're quite definitive.
Yep.
allegedly holds the key to this age-old question because both flat earthers and round earthers, this is what the gangs call each other, agree that Antarctica.
There you go. The gangs, of which she's not part of either. And that's what's interesting here, because the gangs are flat earthers and anti-flat earthers, than the rest. And this is things we could point out to her, because she just thinks there's these two intellectual groups arguing at best. Yeah, it's not that, dear. That's a false dichotomy you're painting. Yeah, there's anti-flat earthers, people that are paid by the government that you hate, the establishment that you say do things like misrepresent science. They're actually out there misrepresenting the shape and nature of the earth.
And calling it science.
Yeah. That's what I'd love to lead her to. Because, you see, that's what she exposes. That's what she's just said with regards to vaccines. She doesn't realise the topic she's dealing with in a paid question from Pastor Will Duffy is exactly another example of that.
Yeah,
She
it's
doesn't
exactly
know how deep the rabbit hole is.
Exactly. It's out of the frying pan and into the fire. But if this was ever to reach her, you'd hope she'd be infuriated. So at the cusp of figuring out that I've been mugged off by science, you're going to use the exact same trick to mug me off with non-science under the guise of it being an experiment. You'd be outraged if you understood where Will Duffy's mugging her off in this regard.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Holds the answer. Like they on both sides of the debate, they're like, yes, like Antarctica. Once we go to Antarctica, we will know who is right in this debate. So I'll let you watch this montage of flat earthers and round earthers agreeing that Antarctica holds the answer.
Right. So there is the research, isn't it?
Yeah.
Her researchers have told her that this is the montage of the two sides. She doesn't give a shit. You see, she isn't interested, Brian. She's done no research herself.
I
Other
don't
than watch
think.
the montage before she presents it.
No, she's not doing any research. She's been told this by Will Duffy and people like Will Duffy, and maybe even Witsit or whoever is in contact with her as well. She's been told that by the group of people that are involved in this heap of nonsense.
She's been told this by her lazy researchers that have watched the Joe Rogan show, that have listened, yeah? She's not been told this by a flat earther. And she's not even got flat earthers in her montage. That's what's going to be very telling. Anybody that had bothered to research the debate properly would come across this argument within our own community, wouldn't they? And realize it, yeah? They would see it. But there isn't. This is surface level, which is, yeah. So all it is, there's a paid question that's gone to a researcher and they've gone, oh, we've got this is paid. Right. Actually, he sent a montage as well. Oh, that's brilliant. That's great for the show. It's good because he's paid money for it to be on. Yeah, whether he's paid money or not, he's got a montage. We can do it. We can splice it. We can stick it on. It's content. This is great for them, current. But what's Candace done? Candace has made sure she sidesteps this argument herself. She is not one side or the other. So all I've got so far, and she's now explaining in a very ill-informed way a false dichotomy of the flat earth argument, fundamentally with regards to whether or not we see a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
And that's exactly what has been paid for. So you're not paying for her to devote her life to it, engage her passion in it, spend the rest of her research career dealing with it. She's just, here's the subject matter, here's the information as I will regurgitate it based on the researcher's montage, and then jobs are good and on to the next super chat.
Answer.
I don't read it like that.
They all say that you and I can't privately and freely explore the one region that would prove the Earth's a sphere. So how?
So now you're going to see the effort of the grift of Will Duffy over the past year. These little montages, because now we've got first one up. What's Funboy saying?
He's on after Candace Owens show. He's on. That's not the Will Duffy video. That's Candace Owens.
No, it's not. It's modern day debate.
Either way,
the Trump.
Look. We don't know. Hold on. We don't know who's compiled this, so we can't say it's Will Duffy's montage. It doesn't really matter. There's a narrative. You're saying it's lazy research. Yeah, you wouldn't have to look very far to unearth Will Duffy's narrative that he wants to be the story in this regard. He wants a false dichotomy, flat Earth versus globe Earth, to mask that the globe Earth assumes a globe Earth. So he can affirm the consequent with a 24-hour sun that may or may not be there. We all know the shtick. Well, if you're a researcher, you only have to scratch the surface to realise, oh, I get what's going on here, because that's all they ever tell you. We've got flat earthers and globe earthers going down there. You don't have to say, here's how the argument stacks up, because it's blatantly a false dichotomy. But if you say, I've got two groups of opposing sides going down, your old Hegelian dialectic is fulfilled, that's fascinating to a researcher. All right, well, what's the actual concern of both parties? Oh, they're both laid out for me. Here's some flatties saying that they want to see a 24-hour sun not happen, and here's some globers saying that they do. Wonderful. It's all there, nice and laid out, easy to regurgitate. It doesn't have to be a Will Duffy montage. It doesn't have to be her personally that's dug it out and edited it. It doesn't matter. The surface level of what this argument is what we've responded to and been ignored on when we respond to Will Duffy. It's a false dichotomy claiming to be an experiment, masking the antipodal assumption by way of an affirming the consequent fallacy. That's what it is. Now, that's an intellectual breakdown that will never get addressed if you're a surface level researcher, because are they going to come across us if they're doing a quick search on final experiment as per the paid super chat? No. You'll find creaky binders explanation or Simon Dan's explanation, and he'll have Will Duffy's clips. And Creaky will have Will Duffy's clips that he's compiled for these lazy sods who will regurgitate it at nausea so that a surface-dwelling researcher can dig it up easily with a cursory search on YouTube. That's how this unfolds. But who produced the montage is kind of irrelevant. The montage is easy to find. Here it is. And what does it do? It illustrates a false dichotomy masking and affirming the consequent. The masks are begging the question of a globe. That's it.
Right, let's watch it.
How convenient.
It's ludicrous. Antarctica is the one place that would prove the flat Earth.
Well, that brings me on nicely to why I think Antarctica destroys flat Earth.
And nobody is allowed to independently explore Antarctica. That's something that would prove the Earth is a globe.
So, as I said, they both agree on both sides that this holds the answer. And the reason, because if the Earth is a sphere, then Antarctica is an island at the bottom of it. And if it is indeed an island at the bottom of a tilted globe,
Pause.
during the summer southern, the sun would
So now she's illustrating the begging the question fallacy aspect. So we all understand one side assumes Antarctica's on the bottom of a globe. That's a conclusion, love. AKA a begging the question fallacy. Yet you suggesting that on one side of the false dichotomy, they already assume their outcome. So when they go down there, they're going to be already dangling off the bottom of a ball, are they, Candace? Right, yeah, that's a begging the question fallacy. Well, you've got to mask that by having it one level up in dichotomy terms. A false dichotomy. Well, the flat earthers say that there won't be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, where the ballers say, if we're dangling off the bottom of a ball that we assume there will be. Like, was somebody under the misapprehension that she had a good idea of how logic works? Because to me, it's a glaring false dichotomy and a glaring begging the question. The only problem is I can't blame Candace for that when everybody in the Western world, as I'm finding out on Omi, everybody in the world believes that this automatic assumption of travelling to the bottom of a ball is acceptable. So she doesn't recognise the begging the question fallacy. Why wouldn't I assume it's perfectly acceptable to say Antarctica's dangling off the bottom of a ball? Well, because that's what you're down there to prove, aren't you? Down there being what you've assumed. She doesn't recognise this because it's been born and bred into her like everybody else. So how can I blame her for it? But it's just breaking down the same fallacy as it would be if it was some subject that she wasn't indoctrinated with from birth to accept a begging the question of a globe Earth and dangling Antarctica.
If this was Ron Burgundy delivering this message, would we be attributing anything that came out of his mouth to his intellect? All I've heard is her disassociate herself and present the argument that's been presented to her and say, well, look, they think they've got a resolution because this side says this side said the other. It's nothing to do with her at all. It's a paid promotion. It's the only thing I can say.
So you're suggesting that because it's
in a paid promotion, if she was saying like, we're going to decide what's the best way to, I don't know, paint a fence, whether it's creosote or thing, she doesn't give a shit because these two sides that have agreed, the creosote team and the standard paint team, have agreed they're going to do a test, and then everyone will know. Next. Yeah. Now we're on to what's the best type of mushy pea. Luckily, we've got two teams. This is, now the shape of the earth. We've got two teams. They've agreed that if you see a sun or don't see a sun, it will mean this. Next feature.
So you're saying, okay, so you're saying if the paid feature comes along and says, I've got this very fascinating message about the speculation about whether ghosts are real. And fortunately, we've got two teams that will decide for certain whether or not ghosts are real. Because if team one shows their Geiger meters going off, then we've definitely got ghosts. And if team one doesn't see the Geiger meter reading, then we definitely haven't. So what?
Of course.
So moving on.
Unlike with ghosts, she just introduces the article. But before, let's take the ghosts. The last time I mentioned ghosts, everybody said I believed in ghosts. Well, I don't believe in ghosts. It's not something I take a side on. But anyway, there's two sides to a debate that's going off that will prove or not prove ghosts. She went out of her way twice to disclaim herself. Right, the paint, right? What point with the paint debate and creosote does she go, I'm a fucking creosote girl, or I don't know whether it's creosote or paint? She does. Very odd to put a disclaimer in and point out that the last time this topic was brought up and I mentioned it, everybody called me a creosote believer. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Disassociation from the topic and just no interest in it. And they're happy to hang themselves these two sides. That's all
Okay,
I've got.
I got it.
Yeah.
It's apathy then.
It's a paid promotion, isn't it?
Fair enough.
Never set in Antarctica. In other words, if the sun sets in Antarctica each day during the southern summer, then the Earth cannot be a globe. Under the globe model, the Earth is rotating while the sun is stationary. Under the flat Earth model, the Earth is stationary while the sun is rotating. The final experiment was created by this guy, Will Duffy. He's a pastor at a small church. And I want to tell you guys about it because I think this is awesome. I love this. I am just so sick and bored of like the scientific authoritarian community. It's like if people are this passionate, which I've been shocked how many flat earthers there are since this clip of me went viral. And if people are this passionate about the topic, just figure it out. By the way, once upon a time, the entire world thought the Earth was flat. And then because of the scientific method, the entire Earth world changed their mind and said that it was a globe. And that's because you have to.
Yeah, she just doesn't understand what science is. We've already covered this, right?
So I've never realised there was that many flat earthers because I'm not interested in flat Earth, and now there are, and I'm, even though I've been made aware that there's a load, still not bothered to look into the subject. Yeah, but I'm enthused by it, and I want to promote it because it's good for my channel.
Yeah, but I'm more disappointed in her failure to recognise
load of lies.
science or the lack thereof.
That's a fucking lie. When people say, it means nothing to me, it don't matter, I have no interest in all that. When it comes to this topic, that's a fucking lie. Especially for her, considering she's constantly talking about the Bible. She is in a quandary in her fucking mind. I can guarantee you that.
Well, I'm not prepared to call her a liar or a deceiver, Brian. I don't see any. Well, then she's given a very good example of somebody who's who's kind of apathetic to the situation at the moment. It's not part of a paradigm.
I'm not getting that from her at all.
I'm even getting
her trying to pretend she's apathetic. I don't really mind. Yeah, you fucking do. Like, what about I'm not her anyway? I still have to get up on Monday. So this bullshit. That's what I'm getting there.
Yeah.
It fucking matters.
That's a message of hope I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, I'm not believing a word of this. Now she doesn't know what she's talking about, but I don't believe a word about her saying, I don't really mind. Bollocks, you don't.
Okay, we get that, but it's just a disingenuous super chat reading, then, isn't it? It's more elaborate because it's presumably more expensive. We don't really know the cost, but ultimately speaking, this is an over elaborate super chat, isn't it? So it can be a bit disingenuous because it's contrived, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't see how you can accept anything. I can't accept dishonesty. I'm sorry.
I know, but you're if you take
There's
Adam's
no
example,
grey area for me with
hear me out.
that
Hear me out.
topic.
When Adam was giving the example with creosote, if you're that guy, which you're sounding like at the moment, that's super passionate about creosote, and you can't accept that she doesn't realise creosote's better, you just can't accept that. Like, she might just be indifferent, Brian. There might be so many subjects that she comes across that rile passion in the people who are involved in them, but she just has to, can thicken up her skin to the point where she doesn't necessarily absorb this information to her detriment to keep herself sane. I'm just putting a different perspective. I'm not saying this is true either. I'm just saying from a different point of view, you might build that wall as a journalist because you're covering lots of subjects that you could easily find yourself spiraling into, and you've got to keep yourself fresh and keep yourself on the latest topics rather than getting bogged down in them.
Yeah, that's not what I'm hearing at all. What I'm hearing is that I opened that can of worms and now I'm trying to pretend I didn't. And I opened that can of worms because I read a Bible that doesn't fit with the paradigm that I believe I'm in.
Hey,
That's what I'm hearing.
Maybe,
hey,
maybe.
you're just pre-assuming positive side of why this is here. You can neither assume positive or negative other than what's been told to you, which
Right.
is this is a paid promotion.
Right.
No, no.
Now,
You know,
outside of
hang on.
that, what she has demonstrated and told us is she doesn't give a shit about it. She's also demonstrated that she has zero knowledge in the subject, but she's been presented with a montage that clearly shows how to settle the argument. This is what I've heard so far. I don't know her, yeah, but if I was to just take her at this on red, she's not interested in flat Earth. It's, as she disclaimed, a paid promotion, and she's doing her best to present it.
You know those people that open Pandora's box and then don't want to have opened it. She is a classic case of that. I reckon
Come on,
she couldn't
Candace,
help but
open your eyes and
Pandora's.
smell the creosote.
You know what? Right on the Candace episode 65. On the last episode, I mentioned creosote. I can't believe how many people actually do stand by the use of creosote when painting the fence.
I'm sorry, but I have to put you.
I'm absolutely
that
blown away. And this
analogy.
next super chat
equivalent.
highlights a test that's going to be taken to decide whether it is paint or creosote. And everybody knows, if you've got any understanding of how UV light behaves, right?
Furthermore, there's only two groups. There is only, when it comes to paint treatment, paint and creosote, and they will definitively decide between the two groups. And here's what the two groups say and stereotype as only. Here's the montage.
That's a terrible equivalence. That's a terrible equivalence, because that's creosote, whatever the hell that is, or paint. That's a heap of nonsense. We're talking about something that shows you that the paradigm you grew up in was the whole lot of it was a big lie. That's what we're talking about. The thing you were told to laugh at and make a joke out of was actually the truth.
Right.
That is not whether paint or creosote or whatever the hell it is. You know what I mean? That's not the same.
Go back to the point Nathan just made to you. She deals with a million things. It's not in her sphere of understanding. And as much as you think that it's idiotic and retarded to paint your fence, in paint, not creosote, right? It's not part of her worldview. It doesn't hit in her world. So even though it's earth-shattering, this information, something so profound to you and me, when she hears it, there's no relevance to her. And as you can see, she's not researched herself in any way. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing negative here. This is just a Ron Burgundy.
You know, what you're after telling me there now is that the past basically decade of my life has been a complete waste of time.
No, we're not saying that.
Because it doesn't matter whether it's paint or creosote, because if it's paint or creosote, or if it's globe or flat, it's all the same, because they're both equally equivalent. Doesn't matter. None of this matters.
No. Stop a second, please.
It could just be paint.
Please.
No, Nathan. No. This is your standard. What you're after basically saying is that everything you've done for the past more or less decade has been a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I got that first time. Anyway. I just want to respond to it, though.
The topic is well, no, you don't. You need to get it for another 50 times.
No, but you've just misrepresented.
You're not getting this. I'm sorry, you're not getting this.
He won't hear that. He'll just keep going until we get further enough away from. No,
why did you tell me about paint again?
Please stop. Please.
Why don't you just tell me about that
again?
Please,
can you stop waffling through us? You've misrepresented what we're suggesting.
I'm not misrepresenting anything.
I'm not going to say
You've just taken the very topic you've spent a decade being involved in.
I'm not going to say it. Just getting rambled through indefinitely like it's Brian time. Okay, I heard you. You're saying that I've suggested that this means that everything I've done for the last 10 years isn't worthy of it. No. I'm suggesting that Candace hasn't got that level of passion when it's just another subject she's covering. So no, we're not suggesting that. When we postulate her position when it comes to covering a subject she's got journalistic interest in at the moment. That's what we're suggesting.
What you're suggesting is impossible. It's impossible for anyone to pretend it doesn't matter, especially somebody who keeps promoting the Bible and reading the Bible and going on about the Bible all the time. It's impossible for her to go, it don't really matter to me either way. That's a complete load of rubbish. She either is bullshitting about being a Christian Catholic and reading the Bible, or she's bullshitting about
No, I don't have that. Hold on a second, I'm not having that. You suggesting that journalists are bullshitters? How dare you?
Brian.
She's not your normal journalist.
Brian.
No, she's a special, my bad, special journalist. Non-bullshitting.
You don't follow her, Nathan, so you don't. How would you know?
She is bullshitted about wanting to detach herself from scientism. She hasn't got the slightest fucking clue what science is, and you're telling me she's not a bullshitter?
Yeah, I know that. I know she doesn't know that. I told you that myself.
So she's a bullshitter. So she's a bullshitter.
No, she doesn't know any difference when it comes to that.
Oh, so this is you're just pandering. You're pandering to her. No, she doesn't know better. No.
How can you?
She's a bullshitter.
How can you belittle this topic? Tell me, how can you flippantly belittle it? Honestly,
I'm not belittling you. No. I won't have that. It's the second time you've done it. I'm not belittling the subject. I'm belittling journalistic integrity.
No, I'm talking about her. If you actually listen to what I'm saying, instead of jumping on top of me and trying to tell me about your position that I'm fully aware of. Because you both told me and you both told each other 20 times.
Brian, hello. You're not listening to us, pal. Okay?
I am, Adam. I've heard you equivocate between creosote and paint being basically the same as flat and globe.
No, you see, and that's your problem, isn't it? That's your problem. If that's what you heard, you misheard.
You didn't listen. I was trying to say a minute ago.
How can we not let this to? Oh, please don't let this end. Please, Brian. Brian, please, you're giving me a frigging headache. You didn't listen. You're just chanting that you didn't listen to you. Oh, it's like dealing with that fundy. Yeah, you're just rambling through us while we're trying to have a reasonable conversation that we didn't listen to you, instead of just pausing, letting us get to the end of each statement and comprehending what we're saying. You don't have to do this. When we describe how Candace might be approaching this, you're interpreting that as us saying, this is how things are, as we try and interpret how Candace, as a journalist, would take this as a bullshitter. Proven. When it comes to science, there's no doubt at all she's a bullshitter. That's a fact. So when it comes to you making the excuses you're making that she doesn't know any better, I've got to roll my eyes, Brian.
No, let me state. You've completely misrepresented me because you didn't give me a chance to tell you my position. When it comes to science, she doesn't fucking know what she's talking about, right? So I don't expect her to get that correct. But when someone tells me, right, that they're flippant about whether it's flat or a globe, right, I know that's a heap of shit. I know deep. That is the biggest heap of shit ever. So if you want to be taken in by her saying that, because that's the actual lie, not that anything to do with science. She's not bullshitting when it comes to science. She's just ignorant. When it comes to this, though, and her saying, I'm easy either way, nothing really matters. If you want to accept that as some kind of honesty, you can. No fucking way am I accepting that.
Okay. As that's the point that you want to focus on, I can even concede that. If you want to say that, if I really think about it, can someone come across this subject and go, it's not that important? When someone says, and you've even said this in your example earlier, oh, what difference does it make? I've got to work tomorrow. That's an excuse that masks the concern. It's a way of fobbing it off. Well, a way of fobbing it off is a way of not acknowledging the importance, which is basically the same thing. And you're saying that almost anybody wouldn't be able to if they'd covered it to any degree, and she's covered it to a reasonable degree. Therefore, it's unreasonable to suggest that her saying, I'm indifferent to this, or being apathetic, you don't buy it. I can accept that. Now, you can't prove it, though. So I'll accept your belief in that. I can even rationalise it in the same way and hold the same belief if you wish me to. But it's not provable. What I can prove is she is a bullshitter.
Yeah, okay, I'll accept your position. Yeah. I can't prove it. I just don't accept it.
Fine.
That someone can belittle the topic that easy, especially someone who constantly promotes the Bible, etc. For me, she's either bullshitting about the Bible belief or she's bullshitting about this.
That's
One or the other.
the worst bit of your testimony on this for me.
Can't hear you.
Outside that, you've
Adam,
kind of
can't
accepted
hear you.
that. Sorry, you can't. Is that better?
Yeah.
You kind of accept that position, but for some reason, you've provided mitigation for her. That she knows it's true, she knows it's flat, and it's a slow creep message that she's got to get out because of her Catholic faith.
No, I'm not saying that.
Just well, you've alluded to it, and I don't need the detail. The point is, I don't know, but most fundamentally, if I just take her words, she knows fuck all about it. She wants fuck all to do with it, and she's been paid to talk about it. It's the end of it.
Yeah, why I brought up the Bible is because anyone who, in today's world, reads the Bible and has been a Bible-following person can't say that this topic does not have an effect on
Maybe
them.
she's not a good enough Bible reader, Brian.
Okay.
You get me?
I was just using that as an extra. It doesn't matter whether you read the Bible or not. That's not my. That's not my solid anything. I was just bringing it up. Of it.
You've said it 2 or 3 times now. So, as a Bible believer, maybe she's not a flat earth. Maybe she's not a shit flat earther. Maybe she's just a shit Bible reader, like most of the Bible.
Maybe so. Yeah. I totally. Yeah, that's very likely. My point was bringing up the Bible was that when she's acting flippant about this topic, I find that very hard. I find that impossible to believe from anyone, number one, and I find it extra impossible to believe from somebody who reads the Torah. Do you know what I mean? I can't go, she just doesn't care. No, I can't accept that. I can't accept that as honesty.
Right.
Okay, but that's where Adam said about Ron Burgundy.
Bullshitters that pretends because she went to one fucking Jewish class that taught her about what the alpha and the beta actually are constructed from, that she now pretends she reads the Torah. Yeah. Just another celebrity bullshitter in another topic, just like she pretends she now is able to differentiate between science and pseudoscience.
Yeah, Ron Burgundy.
Bullshit.
Ron Burgundy is the perfect example, right? There's going to be plenty of scripts that get written for Ron Burgundy as he delivers the harsh, cutting news of the day that is accepted by the masses. The way that that plot is built is that everyone trusts him and they want to hear Ron Burgundy deliver that news. Yeah, and that's why it's so devastating when he tells them all to go fuck themselves. Well, in this instance, you're having that reaction. Don't get triggered, Brian. But when she's telling you to go fuck yourself, because that's how you've reacted, like the whole 10 years is a waste of time then, because that's how you've got to accept it. This is a slap in the face from Candace Owens, isn't it? Well, yeah, that's because she's Ron Burgundy in this scenario.
Just play on.
Well, no, genuinely, this is the point, and this is the non-indictment of Candace. Okay, she is Ron Burgundy, and in her world, realistically, the way I'm viewing it is not to indict any of her relations. She's hiding. It literally, this topic is about as relevant to her as creosote, and the only reason she's brought it up again is because somebody's paid her. And surprisingly to her, by her admission, were her words, the last time she brought up creosote, there was a load of reaction about it. Do you understand how significant it is? Until she brought it up randomly, and there was this is her disclaimers, her telling you how inconsequential it is to her. So you shouldn't indict her when she doesn't realise this significance.
Yeah, that's ignorance, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no expectation of high-level understanding in this subject matter just because she's covered it once as a journalist. I think Ghosts is a better example, though, because it means I can empathise with Brian when the passion level for the research he's done if I use ghosts again, but make it a bit more evocative and say, well, the people who are behind there is genuinely life after death being demonstrated in a physical way or a supernatural way, whatever, that you could understand somebody getting so passionate about it that when a journalist covers it and covers some of the evocative subjects that are contained within somebody who's genuinely serious about spirits, let's not say ghosts, just so it conjures a slightly different image. If it was spirits, and then someone says, I can't believe someone who spoke about this and mentioned some of the deeply evocative things that we discuss, could then 2 weeks later say, I'm not in either way in a camp about afterlife and spirits, but there is two groups. And then she does a game show bit about the two groups that are going to figure it out with Geiger counters. And the person who's serious about spirits goes, it's not about freaking Geiger counters. That's a false dichotomy. I can't believe she's doing this. And it's a slap in the face to the person who's serious about spirits. And it's being turned into ghost hunting. And there's a mockery to all their work when Geiger counters come out in a false dichotomy. I can understand that person turning around to Candace and going, I can't believe she doesn't recognise the significance of the afterlife. This is fundamental to life and death. How can she not take it? How can she be so flippant?
Yeah, but that's the only difference. It's a good example, but that's not Brian's frustration, because the reason you pick something that is more obvious to have a real dichotomy, spirit or no spirit, is the reason I'm not indicting Candace, because to her, this is a laughable subject. To the mainstream public, still, as popular as it is, it's still a joke subject. It's not, do you have a soul or not? It's, is the earth a ball or flat? Ha ha ha. Is your first reaction. Yeah, it's a trivium topic. It's not anything of significance. Just as creosote or paint is a trivium topic. That's why I used it, because it's about as significant in her head. Somebody that's this mainstream person that's dealing with all these really important political and scientific medical topics that she deals with, and looking at how the government is mugging us off to go to this trivium, is why I can understand why she doesn't have the reaction that Brian requests of her, because it isn't part of her world yet. When it is, it'll be really fundamental, and the things she's saying and the lines she uses in other areas will draw parallels. But at the moment, in her head, I can't indict her for those parallels not being drawn, because she doesn't know you can't get an elevation angle off a curved surface. And if I said that to her, it'll fly straight over the top of that head. Not because she's stupid, because she's in a very different world where this topic is of no interest. It hasn't been. And the only time, by her words, she said, is the last time I mentioned it, the chat lit up.
Exactly. And what's she presenting? She's presenting the favourable mainstream nonsense of false dichotomies. She's not saying there's guys out there that say Earth's measured flat. No, she's saying there's a false dichotomy out there. Here's how I'll cover it. Cue the VT.
Actually debate it. You don't just call each other stupid. So I told him, I was like, I think this is like such a fun thing that you guys are doing, and I promise I will report on it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to make it down there, but they have 48 participants that are going.
Oh, did Will Duffy put that bit in his video?
See that, but the only thing I'd say is I think this is.
I don't think so. No.
Fun. Listen to the way she's described. Like I say, it's fun, Brian. Yeah, it's not important. It's fun.
Just a bit of fun.
Yeah,
Will Duffy.
Look, I apologise for getting frustrated, right? But I can't accept that somebody, she can try and make it out to be fun. I know she's naive about the topic, but I just can't accept that somebody can be flippant about this particular topic, because it affects you as a human being. it causes people to have to look into their soul, to look into the mirror, the skeletons in the closet. It causes people to do that, and that's why people have such reaction to it.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's what all
You're
I'm saying is that
projecting. As positive as that is,
Sorry?
it's positive projection, but it's still projection. We did that.
She's already turned fucking Catholic, right? So for her to look at her skeletons, she's already there. That's why we like her. That's why she resonates with us.
I'm
Why
not. I'm not talking about her looking at her skeletons, Adam. That's not what I've said. I was just pointing out that the effect it has on some people. I'm talking about nobody can not be affected by the topic. Nobody can be flippant about it because
they understand it. If they don't, and it's just as significant in their mind as whether you use creosote or paint, you can't critique them for it. When they haven't, when they don't get the significance of it, particularly in a world that they live in, and they cite the significance, but it's frustrating that they don't see that the topic they've covered this week and they covered 2 months ago, right? It actually resonates with everything they say about a lying government, right? It's very frustrating, but it's just ignorance on her part is all I can see. She doesn't recognize this topic as any different to creosote or paint.
Yeah, and you can feign the seeming to recognize the importance as a journalist, as a bullshitter. That's what they do. Make it seem like this is an important subject on both sides of the discussion, appeal to both parties. That's her job. So I can very easily believe that that is her attitude and that she can be flippant and that she is ignorant of the subject. She's demonstrated it in more ways than one. And who can blame her? And when you say, I don't think people who, and Adam's added, understand the significance of the subject could walk away from it, I'd agree. But the amount of people I come across recently on OMI TV who are indifferent to it and do want to just hand wave it. Now, as a journalist, mentally, you can do that. You can hand wave the subject and cover it with gusto. Amazing. You can do that as a journo. That's what they're trained to do.
Yeah, and all that I will accept. But as I said earlier, she's either bullshitting about reading the Bible or she's bullshitting about this.
Assume it's all bullshit. You can only go on what standard she lays down. If she says she lends extreme weight to the deception of science, you're like, okay, I'll take you at your word. If you lend extreme weight to the deception of science, presumably, what does that entail in next step? The next step is to find out what the hell science actually is, and she hasn't. Now she's promoting pseudoscience that apparently is really good fun. You're like, okay, so if this is science related and you have the passion that you've bullshitted about having for whatever subject that was currently in the media that needed science to be decried, for her it's vaccines, then she'll do that in the moment because currently the mainstream says that science has lied to us, so that's the tip that she'll be on for that particular moment in journalistic history. Whether or not she understands it is irrelevant. She definitely doesn't. She doesn't know how science lied to her about vaccines, does she? If you actually pinned her down on it, now that I know that she's said that this false dichotomy is good fun science, it's like you're not seeing what's going on here. She's a surface regurgitator, presumably slightly worse than that, which is just all journalists because they've got a team of researchers that she's dependent on, and if they do a good job, she looks great. If they don't, like now, she looks like Ron Burgundy. Well, that's the life of a journo. It's a facade, and it's hard to see past sometimes.
You got to remember this bit in terms of her show is the bit where, and today at the San Diego Zoo, a kid fell in to the gorilla. Luckily, he got out alive. Stay classy, San Diego. Yeah,
it's a dead donkey. It's a dead donkey story, right? The dead donkey story can be at the top of the list when everybody's crowded round it. But very quickly, as the murders and massive fraud trial and presidential shooting moves their way up the lists of headlines, the dead donkey story gets dropped. Well, we're a dead donkey. We should know this. You know, Adam says we're trying to sell people shit. Well, that shit is the dead donkey story. Occasionally people will stare at it and it can make its way up the headlines. And she's got to offer the same enthusiasm about both sides of the story, journalistic balance and all that, as she would with any other dead donkey story. But when it comes to being dropped, nobody's outraged because we're not in the majority to be outraged. If we were, she'd cover it more. But we're not, so it's got covered for the amount of time that it's been deemed worthy. And now it's the dead donkey. But Will Duffy, he's flogging that dead donkey, in. He's extracting every little ounce of flesh from that dead donkey. She's very interested. She can't go, Duffy. She can't go, and your paid endorsement that she read out was in no way going to get her to even type in your website. She didn't. She wasn't interested. But thanks for the dosh. She's laid down your false dichotomy for you. I'm sure you're really grateful. And you could have spun that for your audience to suggest that she was really, really interested, I believe he said. Really, really interested in not going. You're just a fraud, Duffy, and a liar. This was all spin, wasn't it, Duffy?
Yeah. But he does state at the end of his, I think he states at the end of his video that her and her husband are going, but her producer is. So that, or I think it was her producer, or he said, or director. That tells me that it's that person that's really interested. And because nobody's going to go on this thing unless they're truly interested. Do you know what I mean? Even if it's like, if you were going to be sent there as a work project, you go, could you send someone else unless you're really interested? So the person who's really interested, it's someone connected to her, and that person's probably a big baller.
No, maybe you're just interested in seeing Long Twilight, the purpose of the trips as advertised. Maybe you'd just like to see the penguins. Maybe you're desperate to go to this place called Antarctica that you've only ever dreamed of going to, and you're given this. Maybe you're 25 and you're the producer of Candace show and you're given the opportunity.
Sorry, am I missing something? Will Duffy, the lying shyster fraudster, has said the producer's interested in going down, has he? He said that. Sorry, where's the interview with the producer with him laying down 30 grand? Is he on the list? No, it's just Will Duffy the bullshitter, isn't it? She's really, really interested in his paid endorsement. No, she's just reading out a paid endorsement, and she's definitely not interested in going down there. That's the reality. That's what's happened. This is a paid shyster fraud to punt the grift. Okay. Yeah, it takes money to make money, doesn't it, Duffy? You can pay a celeb that we're talking about to endorse your trip. She ain't going. You didn't even type in your website. Not interested. That's clear. She wants to detach herself from this subject matter. That's even clearer.
Let's see what she says. Maybe she says, I'm going. Or I'm sending me a producer. Let's go.
Down there, both the flat earthers and the round earthers, I can't believe I'm learning this terminology, they're both going down there, 48 participants together. And it's just...
I can't believe I'm learning this terminology. Yeah. That tells you where it's in her head. Sorry.
Just amazing. They found somebody to sponsor it, all expenses paid trip, and I think they're gonna try to live stream it in some capacity. It's very expensive, by the way, to go down to Antarctica. It's like $31,000 to go.
Oops.
No, it isn't. It's 15. No, I mean, obviously, Will Duffy the charlatan's got a price tag on it that's considerably dearer than you can actually get quotes for. I mean, I don't know what he's justifying the extra double expense of some other quotes that we've seen for this particular expedition. But there we go. That's just what you see when people get involved in fraud and claim they've got science. Furthermore, you've got people who are trying to raise 40 grand for this 15 grand trip. So yeah, it's very expensive. Will Duffy's at the helm. But obviously he's got to pay for things like these super chats with you reading them out. So, you know, the money's got to come from somewhere, I guess.
Listen to her here. There's no passion. These are producers' notes. This is Ron Burgundy right now. And apparently it's expensive. It's $31,000. You see, this isn't her. She's not typed in who they use. She's not done the level of research we did to critique it, just to see the validity of even the trip. who it's going with, how much they charge, why it's double the price by the pasta. The good, you know what I mean? None of this is there. This is Ron Burgundy. This is, like I say, drop the dead donkey. Or don't. Put the dead donkey in this week.
Go and do an expedition to Antarctica. It's very difficult to get down there. So I will be watching the story, and I just wanted to toss it to them because I think it's fun. Like, it's actually fun to
See? Right. This, Brian, is the only mitigation I'll give you, because you've said that she knows the significance. She's a good Catholic girl. Yeah. And it's frustrating you as to why she doesn't see it. Right. The only mitigation I can see is listening to a language. It's so disassociative of the topic, which is, as demonstrated to her, emotive. It's very clever language, which is almost like it's a slow creep. Make sure you're not associated with it. I never use language where I'm invoked in either side, right? But keep bringing the topic up over time. My plan is not to just flood the market with it as if I'm involved in it, but as I mitigated today, the response the last time I mentioned was so big, I've decided, I'm bringing it up again and start to creep it in and then maybe investigate. Like you say, I can't believe I'm learning these terms. So there's a level of, I'm nothing to do with this that I'm hearing as well, that you don't need to do. So that's the only mitigation I give, that she does know, but she can't just come out and go, "This flat." So if I wanted to love Candace still, or I needed to make an excuse for her, I would listen to that language, is what I'd say. You get me, Brian?
Yeah, I just don't even need that, Adam. It's just there's no way I can think. There's just either she's completely bullshitting about reading the Bible, or she's completely bullshitting about this topic having no effect on her. She's easy either way, nothing matters.
So the area where I would, with that mitigation, say that she is bullshitting, is the only area she's bullshitting about is a level of knowledge and interest in the topic. And she's presenting herself as very ignorant and going to great lengths to do so. Notable points.
Or any topic, including being a Catholic.
Yeah. Because she claims she's a Catholic now. She said, I am. Look at the cross in the background, mate. She's converted to Catholicism. That's part of her statements of truth. And that's part of Brian's frustration, that if you are this Catholic and you believe in the Bible this much, read your bloody Bible. So I understand that. I just, as I said, there's lots of Bible readers that don't think the earth's a ball.
And would you go to Muhammad Ali to hear about Islam?
If I wanted to float like a butterfly, that's when I go to Ali.
Yeah, but
Islam,
Nathan, in 2024, we're dealing with a situation where everybody who's a Christian, right, or Catholic, especially in America, are coming across this topic. It's been brought up everywhere because of the Bible. So if someone is claiming that they're a constant reader of the Bible and they read it all the time, and she constantly quotes it, right? And it's all this Jesus is King stuff, all this bullshit, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
And total bullshit, right?
It's bullshit. How many?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Bullshit. Hang on. Maybe just give me a second.
Go on.
It's not as if I don't know that liars exist. I'm literally saying she's either bullshitting about all the Bible stuff, or she's bullshitting about this not having any effect on her being kind of flippant about it, because she can't be following the Bible to the degree that she's claiming to, and this topic not have an effect on her.
Yes, the last one.
Right.
If that was a choice of three things, the last one. Yeah, there's a grey area where you can profess to be a Bible literalist and occasionally read the Bible. In other words, you big up your conversion. So let's pretend for a minute that her husband's a devout Christian and she listens to him preach to her about the whys and wherefores of the Bible, and occasionally she reads it. Well, it's better to be that devout, staunch Bible reader that people would expect of you. Well, in my own personal experience, often when I come across people who claim to be Bible literalists in our field, that's flat earthers, and then me almost being an under the radar, I don't profess to have any knowledge, but often my knowledge is better than the person that's professing to have a vast knowledge of the Bible and professing to be a Christian, which I don't do either. But it doesn't mean that they've got a good Bible knowledge just because they say, I am a Christian, I've converted to Christianity, I'm a Bible reader, and I understand that Jesus is Lord. And then you go, okay, well, give me an example from the Bible, and they can't, to make their point, I mean. So just because she says that she's a staunch converted Catholic doesn't mean that she's going to have some intrinsic knowledge of the Bible that she's read cover to cover daily. Because I doubt highly that she has or does.
No, because she said what she is. She's a converted to Catholicism, right? If she said, I'm a staunch Bible literalist, I'm an evangelical Pentecostal, Bible believing, no, she said I'm a Catholic. It's the most fluid form of Christianity, that you can get. It doesn't the only thing it holds you to really is Catholic doctrine. That's the only thing, not Bible believing, because it's their Bible's different. Yeah, Catholic Bible is slightly different to the Bibles that so there's all, but they're not Bible bashers, Catholics, are they? They don't hold it like that. It's testimony of history. They're Catholics. Yeah. They're not evangelical Bible Belt Americans where that is the written word of God. It's a very fluid admission into the Trump agenda when she announced, if I'm being critical of her, to come out and say I'm a Christian in one form, the easiest form that you can mitigate with is to say I'm Catholic. Everybody's fucking Catholic in Ireland, Brian. How Christian are they?
Yeah, but they're not the ones who are quoting the Bible. You won't find people who are Catholic in Ireland quoting the Bible left, right, and centre. She's constantly quoting the Bible, like, let's just say Neil or Tent or someone. She's constantly doing that.
That's different to holding her to the denomination, she said, and then to imply that means she should be Bible believing. That was my point. If you say you're Catholic, doesn't mean I'm a Bible believing Christian. If I'm Anglican, it's actually fundamentally means I'm not a Bible believing Christian. I'm Church of England. There's certain nuances that I accept that it's not the written word of God. Yeah. So there's ways in which saying Christian means things, and Catholic has certain intonations, and it doesn't mean you're this Bible fundy like a Pentecostalist that trawls over the text.
Yeah, but she was a Christian Bible following, Bible reading person prior to becoming a Catholic. And so was her husband.
She just said she was a Catholic, which means
prior to becoming Catholic, she converted from Christianity to Catholicism, just like her husband did.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that means she can do stuff, and then on a Sunday or once a week, go, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Right?
You have to do it in an Irish accent if you're Catholic, then.
Always. You can't go into a church, can you? And sit in the confession box and not go, forgive me, Father. It's only ever going to come out like that.
So I'm going to have to verify this.
Fact. And science will prove it.
That makes probably about as much sense now as what she said.
Yeah. The point I'm making is, right, it's lovely. And to me, when I hear things like that, my faith in Jesus has got fuck all to do with anyone else. It's not something I announce as a proof. It's something she did big style, which is to get her on with the Trumpies. What she didn't do was hold herself to a fundamental American Christian viewpoint. She went, I'm Catholic. Which, ask QE, what do you think of Catholics in terms of Christianity? Ask 10th. It's not, it's not a big pull, I don't think, shouting you're Catholic. Certainly in America. It's better than saying I'm Muslim, obviously.
I didn't appreciate that having a Pentecostal church as your church would mean that would be the reason. I mean, all of my family, all they ever did was give each other Bibles and read the Bible and have Bible reading sessions. So as much as it's like I'm not a particularly big reader of the Bible, I've read the Bible, but I'm not what I consider to be a standard of that type of Pentecostal person that you just described. It just hadn't dawned on me. Why have I got a reasonably good understanding of the Bible? Because it's being constantly read to me as I was being brought up, with like my uncle being a pastor and my grandmother being a missionary. You know, out there doing it, reading the Bible was all they did, and going, you know, scrutinizing text and using text as examples in almost everything. So like, it's going to rub off, right? But again, I don't profess to be some sort of Bible literalist or even profess to have a good understanding of the Bible. I don't feel that I do because of the high standards. But as I just said, there's so many people out there that will convert, and then suddenly the expectation is because you're currently reading the Bible that you've got a good understanding of it. It's like, why would you automatically assume that? Even if they have been reading the Bible recently, it's like, there's a difference between being raised in an environment that's constantly having that used as a tool versus you've been reading it for the last 5 years. You're like, I don't know. There's a big distinct difference. Furthermore, I didn't know your view on that in regards to your relationship with Jesus was almost identical to mine, Adam. But you've just said it, so I'll just smugly agree. None of your business. When the guy came on that Omi video and he's like, you immediately must profess your declaration to Jesus or something like that. I'm just like, sure, no worries. It's like, this isn't really something that's to do with you. My personal relationship with Jesus has nothing to do with you. Therefore, when people try and charge me with being a Christian, I won't. It's like, well, why not? Well, because suddenly I've got their personalized standard of what that means that I've got to uphold. And as soon as I say it, there's an expectation of the religious text understanding that I must adhere to. And if I say it, I should know this particular piece of text and how it's used as an example. It's like, I don't really want to do that just because I've got my own personal relationship with Jesus. That's none of your business. You know, I understand what it means to be a Christian. It doesn't involve declaring it to all and sundry, in my opinion.
If I describe my relationship, right, to Jesus, or if I said, this is my relationship to Mr. Patel down the road, you took studious notes, best you could do is have the religion of Mr. Patel as formed by Adam's relationship with Mr. Patel. You would never be able to go and have the same relationship that was described to you with Mr. Patel. Go and have your own relationship with Mr. Patel, right? And if when you've got a relationship with Mr. Patel, we'd like to share anecdotes of our relationships with him, you can do that. It's not for me to tell you how to deal with Mr. Patel. Go and deal with him.
And that's the bit that I would appreciate as a Christian, that the idea that you should encourage others to go and exercise the relationship with Mr. Patel. Yeah? Rather than me telling you all about my relationship with Mr. Patel, I'd encourage you to go and build a relationship with Mr. Patel. Go and do that.
Yeah. Otherwise, you end up with a religion. Yeah? The religion of Paul, which is what we've got. Paul's relationship with Christ is what most people, Christians, try to emulate. The relationship that Paul had. Not Peter, not James, not any of the apostles, yeah, but Paul, Saul. That's the relationship that they try to emulate. That's what's given to us. Well, that's kind of what I didn't like. I didn't understand it. You know what I mean? And you got to find your own.
Right.
It's less certain, but it's genuine. You know?
But we're doing this because we're only having this conversation because we're questioning the validity of a journalist, right? And I'm stammering over my words because it just seems silly. You know what I mean? I like the Ron Burgundy example because it's like, does Ron Burgundy really? But no, he doesn't. It's airhead mode when it comes to stuff like this. I'm not saying she is an airhead, but I'm saying when you're going through the grind of reading out a super chat and giving good value to the person that's paid for it, this is you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and this is Ron Burgundy the monkey reading out the super chat and making it seem like they've got some background so it's not just a paid super chat. There's a bit more to it. There's got to be some extra value offered if you're going to get her to read it out for a few quid. So, we're kind of reading too much into this Ron Burgundy moment.
We need to find out, as we said early on, is there a way of getting paid moments on this channel, which is kind of what she disclaimed. But then just listen to what I said. I'm listening to her. Brian's mitigating, saying she shouldn't be able to ignore it and wash her hands of whether or not we should, crucify this man. You can't wash your hands of this. You should know better, yeah? Well, we're saying she doesn't give a fuck. Genuinely, yeah? It's got nothing to do with her. It's the petty squabbles, yeah, of infighting people as she's described it. And they've agreed how to resolve it. Apparently, the Jews think the best way, yeah? That's what this is. It is Pilate. It's just a complete abomination of any. She's not in. She refused to be on any side. They say this is the way of resolve. You know what I mean? It is. And I think that's the point. The best way is to say it's a Ron Burgundy because there's no passion in her voice, is there?
This is the news of the false dichotomy of globe Earth and flat Earth, brought to you by a man called Will Duffy. It's a very interesting and fun science. I'll keep an eye on it. Moving on. Well, I mean, how does she actually round this out? Let's hear the end of it.
To see people debate and want to get to the bottom of their debate about something that they are passionate about. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some of your comments here. Let's jump
But they are passionate about.
Yeah.
into them. First up, we have Lucky Mint, pardon me. Great show today, Candace. Thank you so much. Matilda writes, I went to Santiago, Chile last year and learned about the U.S.-backed coup on 9/11 in 1973. U.S.-backed coup on 9/11, strange. I'd love to see you discuss the connection.
There you go.
There you go. Moving on. It is literally just an expensive super chat.
Yep. Because we're on to the coup. I went to a thing in 1978 for the coup. Yeah. Next random Brian, why is she not passionate about the coup in 78? We all know the implications of that fucking coup, don't we?
Yeah, she's doing it all with a flat affect, is what you're trying to say. And yeah, it does show. And why would we be hypercritical of it? We've got to take a step back from our own subject and look on what she's doing from the outside and go, this is no different to the subject she's covering in the aftermath of what we could lend great significance to. Why would we? Well, because it's our subject. Of course we would. But we don't have to. We can take a step back and go, no, it's a Ron Burgundy moment. She's reading out a paid super chat. She's endorsed it with a clip that her producers have rustled up with a very flat affect. And she's also going out of her way to detach herself from them and their false dichotomy that she will keep an eye on. So jolly good. I mean, this is so detached from the spin that Will Duffy put on it. It does make me laugh because it proves what a fraud he is. It's just yet another thing showing what a charlatan he is and the lengths he's prepared to go to bullshit his audience about how interested Candace Owens is. Why? Because you're paying her to be interested.
Well, when she first brought up this topic some time back, she was all enthusiastic about it. And then suddenly she's not enthusiastic about it. As far as I'm concerned, she's trying to make a distance from it for her to stop it from interfering with her career. That's how I would view it. That's how I've been viewing it. But that doesn't mean that the topic itself, like she might be belittling what Will Duffy is doing by giving the impression that, by being flippant about that, because maybe that doesn't really mean much to her. I don't know. But I just know that she suddenly tried to pretend this topic, and this is just not just now, but only recently, a while back, that the topic is kind of just another topic. Well, I saw the difference when she first brought it up, and suddenly she's taking this big step back. It's like, oh, it's not really that important. It's like, come on, I know the difference. Her natural reaction to it happened at the start when she first brought it up.
What if tomorrow she did the same with some of the subject that seems to have had great significance lent to it by her? If she turned around tomorrow and says something along the lines of the vaccines that she's been moaning about, actually, it's not that big a deal. You know, it's the same slap in the face from Ron
No,
Burgundy.
it's not. She has made statements herself about vaccines. She has took a position on this. All she's done with Flat Earth is remove herself from having a position. Very different. Yeah. Now, you can say it's because she knows better and she might be trying to do a slow creep, or she knows better and she works for the devil, or as far as genuinely, the only thing I can see is she doesn't give a fuck. It's of no relevance to her and her life, this flat earth stuff. Just not relevant, even though it keeps cropping up, thanks to a paid super chat. Yeah. But it's still not relevant to her. Anyway, the coup in 1978, I'm going to give the same level of emotive response to. Yeah. It's not part of her world.
Fair enough.
That's all I've got from that. Yeah. I can't draw an indictment. I've just got somebody reading teleprompter. Yeah. Don't use the word airhead, because Ron Burgundy is the perfect descriptor, because it is just teleprompter reading. She's not interested, mate. Yeah. Brian's frustrated that she's not interested. And so he's filling in a void.
I remember her original enthusiasm for it, and I understood her enthusiasm for it, and why she might be enthusiastic, and she was mentioning the Bible as well. And now suddenly, it's just no big deal. It's like, nah, I'm not buying it. You
There's a
can buy
word
it if
for
you
that.
like. I'm not buying it.
Called being fickle.
She hasn't got a habit of being fickle. If she did, I wouldn't be ever watching her.
She's not being fickle. She's responding to a paid super chat, which she's done. And then she's moved on to the next section of the show. Yeah. Having made no personal comment on the paid super chat, and in fact, at times going to great lengths to disassociate her from any side of the paid super chat. And then she's moved on to the coup of 78. What I heard, all this there, you can't indict, and there's nothing other than that there. Now, what Will Duffy goes on to do is to pervert it, right? To pretend that she is taking a side and that she's got some kind of investment in this.
Okay,
That's
just go back
not the
to
case.
3502 and just hit play.
3502, yeah.
It's not something that you want to happen in the future. All right, before we go, I have to tell you about this amazing thing that's going on. Okay, so I was contacted on Connect. You know, that's the app that I'm on that people can like message me and like pay to text me, and I can respond on audio. And this guy messages me, and this is what he says. His name is Will Duffy.
Just wanted to get that. Just wanted to get that at the end. You know, that's all this is.
Pay to respond.
Yep.
Play that game. As I said when we first heard that, maybe that's the game we have to play.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not into it. Playing silly games. Paying for some celebrity that happens to be discussed on Flat Earth Debate. It's just sad.
Or funny. You're messing with the system there, you see.
I like the idea of messing with it. I do.
Like Brexit. It was never intended. One stupid politician said one thing to get himself elected. and then it had to happen, and then it fucked everything up. If actually you could get a celebrity to discuss whether or not you know what I mean, certain things, you can get paid ways of doing it. There's lots of people out there with more money than us, yeah, that you say, well, could we go do a crowdfund for. So Brian comes back and it costs $1,000, right, to get a paid on-air response from Candace on the Candace show. So we do a crowdfunding for that.
No, I'd feel dirty.
They're dirty. Yeah, that's not dirty.
Nah, I'll just encourage people to smash the super chat for me. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'll do.